Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 19th meeting of the Lebanon Utility Service Board. Let the record reflect that this meeting was properly advertised. We are short one board member tonight. Jim Urban's not with us. We wish Jim the best and hope he's doing well tonight. All of our other board members are present. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda tonight is approval of the minutes from the August 5th, 2020 meeting. Everyone had a chance to review those minutes, and if so, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second. Motion made by Bill, seconded by Dan to approve the minutes from the August 5th, 2020 meeting. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is an information item. It's a financial report. And I believe, Ed, you going to go over that, or is that?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
going to go over that.
Okay.
Thanks. And I have some slides on the laptop here, so. Give our tech team a minute here to get the slides up, and I'm going to talk about our there it is, delinquent account update. Okay, just some background. The Indiana's moratorium on utility cutoffs has been in place since March 2020, when Governor Holcomb issued an executive order in response to the pandemic. Since that time, the past due balance of customer accounts has increased sharply. To offset the reduced cash flow, Lebanon Utility staff has postponed capital projects along with cutting O&M where possible. Let me draw your attention to this chart. You can see that the delinquent balance in 2020 is much greater than in prior years, and it increased $100,000 from June to July. Here's that same information graphically. We talk about flattening the curve with COVID. We would like to flatten the curve on our delinquent account amount. Here's some statistics. Total number of current customers subject to disconnect as of August 18th, 2020 is 533. The average past due amount is $634. The way this breaks out is there's 399 customers that owe less than $1,000, 120 customers that owe between $1,000 and $2,000, and 14 customers that owe greater than $2,000. The range for residential is $26 to $3,000. These numbers will change every billing cycle, and we bill every 2 weeks. There's many ways to pay us. The office hours are 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. You can call 765-482-5100 or go to our website. Pay agreements are available. You can use our Smart Hub. This is our new feature on our website where you have these improved usage management tools. You can pay on the website. There's all sorts of interesting things you can do on it, like pay your bill. We have this great community that has a lot of assistance programs. Shown above are some links that we'll have on our website later that where you can just click on this link and they can get a form where you can put in your information and they'll contact you and can help you with your utility bill. We're proposing some temporary changes to our customer service policies. Now, I need to review the current regulation first. Indiana's moratorium on utility cutoffs expired on August 14th, 2020. We haven't begun to disconnect anyone yet. On June 12th, the IURC, the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, suspended collection of late fees, deposits, disconnection and reconnection fees, and convenience fees, until August 12th. On August 12th, the IURC restored utilities authority to collect commercial fees and convenience fees, but maintained the suspension of late fees, deposits, and disconnection and reconnection fees for residential customers. Indiana Utilities can assess fees as normal on October 12th. However, extended 6-month-plus payment arrangements must continue to be offered through August 12th, unless a customer requests a shorter payment arrangement. Staff has spent a lot of time to determine the best way for Lebanon Utilities to move forward to support the customer's interest and Lebanon Utilities' interest. For our first recommendation is disconnect date. We are recommending that the board extend the disconnect moratorium to September 8th, 2020, to give customers time to call in and make a pay agreement. In that time, we'll call every customer who is subject to disconnect and recommend that they come in or call us to make a pay arrangement. And there's an action item later, so I'm just going to go on with the presentation if that's okay.
Sure.
Of course, interrupt me if you want to have discussion. Okay, residential pay agreement discussion. We're giving you 3 options. Option 1, temporarily extend the maximum pay agreement for residential customers from the current 3-month maximum agreement to a 6-month maximum agreement, which would coincide with the IURC order. Option 2, temporarily extend the pay agreements for residential customers from the current 3-month to the following based on the past due amount. Up to $1,000, 6 months max. $1,000 to $2,000, 9 months max, and over $2,000, 12 months max. The customer can always request less on their pay agreement. Option 3 would be to temporarily extend the pay agreement for residential customers from the current 3-month maximum agreement to something greater than 6 months, be 7 months, 8 months, or whatever is the pleasure of the board. But as it says in the note, the customer can always ask for less time. The commercial pay agreement extension, option 1 would be temporarily extend the pay agreement for commercial customers from the current 3-month maximum to a 6-month maximum, coinciding with the IURC order. Or option 2, temporarily extend the pay agreement for commercial customers from the 3-month maximum to a greater than 6-month maximum. And when we say commercial customers, we're talking about non-residential customers. It was pointed out to me that we have some other classes of customers that we're kind of lumping in with that. For commercial fees, option 1 would be to resume late fees and deposits on commercial accounts effective September 8th, 2020. Option 2 would be waiving all late penalties and deposits on commercial accounts for an additional 60 days. That concludes the slideshow. I can back up and we can discuss individual items, or we can move on to the action item at the pleasure of the board chairman.
Do I have any questions for Ed on any of those items in his presentation? All right, thank you, Ed. We'll go ahead and move to the next item, which is extend the maximum time on pay agreements and disconnect dates. This is an action item.
Ed, would you go ahead and just bring up that particular slide so we'll have it in front of us as we have our discussion, please? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I believe that staff has recommended that we extend the moratorium to September 8th so that our customer service professionals will have an opportunity to directly contact our customers and that are delinquent with late payments and offer them a pay agreement to avoid disconnection. Personally, that makes sense to me. And unless there's further discussion, I'll make a motion to extend it.
In what order, Neil, are you wanting to address these? Because the September 8th is in regards to commercial fees, I believe.
Well, I think September,
Oh, okay.
I think September 8th is the time we're going to extend it to allow our customer service to call everyone or make contact.
Okay.
Right.
And then that
Okay.
way they have some time to work something out before we act. So if is that right, Ed?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we will, I think that's the first action item, is just popping back that disconnect date to September, what was it, 9th? 8th, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's
I move to extend the disconnect moratorium to September 8, 2020, to give customers time to call in and make a pay agreement.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Dan to extend the the disconnect time to September 8th, 2020, to allow utilities time to make contact with each of these customers and arrange a payment plan. Any other discussion on that particular item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Then we have some more, would that just be item 5 there, and then, yeah, we have to do some more extensions, right? Or is that?
Correct. So the next step would be
Yeah.
to determine what you're going to do with residential customers relative to the length of time to allow for extending pay agreements. Right now, the IURC has told us pay agreements shall be 6 months. The question is, do you want to leave it at 6 or extend beyond that?
Okay, thanks, Jeff. I think the 3 options we saw in the previous presentation that Ed gave, option 1 was clearly within the state's rules, right?
It's the minimum.
That was
that-
in the scope of
Yeah.
yes.
And option 2 actually is a little more generous to that particular rule there, so, and that it seems to be the recommended option from staff, is that right?
Well, I think that's what we discussed. I don't think anybody recommended it, but
Okay,
My understanding was staff did recommend option 2.
They did.
okay. All right, well,
recommended, okay.
so if we can discuss further, we can entertain a motion if everyone's on page to, but I'll leave that to you guys here until we're ready for a motion.
Well, I would make a motion that for residential pay agreement extensions, that we go with option 2, which temporarily extends the pay agreement for residential customers from the current 3-month to the following based on the due amount due. So up to 1,000, we would extend it to 6 months max. For people that owe 1,000 to 2,000, we would extend it up to a 9-month max. Over 2,000, up to a 12-month max.
I think the numbers
I
are
second that motion.
I think that the numbers are going to increase so much that I think we'd be better to go with option 1, but
Okay, Dan, you made a motion, correct? And Aaron, did you second?
Yep.
Yes, I did, but I welcome a complete and thorough discussion.
So now we have a motion and a second. Now we can have further discussion or questions before we vote.
okay. I think the numbers are going to increase so much that I don't think option 2 is really, it's going to change so much that I think we'd be better to stick with option 1 at this time. It's my recommendation.
Okay. So you feel like by extending some of these past the 6 months, that could allow some customers to get even further behind?
Yeah, the number,
If their
yes,
pay agreement's too long?
absolutely.
And I support option 2 because I think it's more ratepayer friendly than option 1.
I would agree with that.
Okay, any other discussion or questions on this item before we vote
No.
on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Looks like we have,
Commercial next.
now we will jump to the commercial, the commercial pay agreements where we had 2 options shown in the presentation earlier. Option 1 was to temporarily extend the pay agreements for commercial customers from the current 3-month maximum agreement to a 6-month maximum agreement. Option 2 was temporarily extend the pay agreements for commercial customers from the current 3-month maximum agreement to a greater than 6-month, or greater than or equal to 6-month maximum agreement. And of note, the IURC does allow any customer to elect a time frame less than 6 months if they choose to.
And it's also our policy, if I'm correct, that once a customer chooses a pay agreement, that we do not permit them to change that pay agreement option for a year. Is that correct? Is that our operating policy?
They were allowed simply one pay agreement a year, so that was going to be some directive that I would, after you, maybe it's time to talk about that, but after you dealt with the commercial, what I'd like to understand is because the IURC says you're allowed to make up to 6 months unless a customer elects differently, right now we're allowed one per year. How do you want to handle that if somebody said, look, I want a 3-month pay agreement, I'm entitled to 6, but I want to do 3, they get to the end of the 3, they said, I need another pay agreement for, and as long as they're within the collective total time, do you want to allow a second pay agreement?
And that time is October 12th, is when the customer could request that change and be backed up legally.
But the time.
So after October 12th, they couldn't challenge.
The automatic will reduce to the 3 months. The automatic will be 3-month pay agreements unless you're under a 6-month pay agreement. So if October 11th.
Right.
Got it? Okay.
Right.
So we'll have this situation, and what I want to impress upon the board is somebody may say, I want a 3-month pay agreement, I don't want 6, and 3 months will come up and they will be in violation, subject to disconnect, and they're going to call downstairs and ask, can I have another 3-month pay agreement?
But that 3-month period that you're talking about would be in November.
Correct.
After October
Correct.
12th, so we would not have to legally honor their request.
Correct. So what we're going to do is encourage people to make their own decision, but you take the 6 unless you're absolutely certain you only need 3.
Right. Yeah, just making sure that they understand if they choose something less than 6, they're abide to that.
This will be the one-off that we'll get a call from someone, and this will come up. So, so what I'm hearing from the board is that we are leaving that policy the same, as that you get one bite at the apple, one pay agreement a year.
Right.
So and I agree with that right now, but if the pandemic continues and we go back to a shutdown, we may have to readdress that. It's not etched in stone.
This is all kind of temporary.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
We've got some brand-new customer service forms and policies that we're ready to roll out. We've held on those. We're kind of waiting until that October 12th or 13th date to start some of those new initiatives to make things a little more easier and streamlined for customers and in customer service. So things are in flux. We hate having temporary agreements in these temporary policies, but yes, this is going to be another topic of discussion, likely in the coming months.
Yeah, and I fully expect that the pandemic gets worse, that there's going to be additional IRC orders, additional stimulus, government action, and we'll have to adapt and adjust as we have been for the last 6 months.
Yeah, so be my recommendation in that we stand firm where we are.
That's what I would recommend.
And then
Well,
work it as it goes.
We have to extend to 6 months.
He's talking about
The one
Pay
payment.
agreement, yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
All right, so we're going to jump back to the commercial pay agreements then, right? Okay. So we have the options there that we discussed earlier. Does anybody want to make a motion on one of those two options for commercial pay agreements?
I move to approve option number 1, extending pay agreements from 3 months to 6 months for commercial ratepayers.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Dan to temporarily extend the pay agreements for commercial customers from the current 3-month maximum agreement to a 6-month maximum agreement. Discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Does that wrap up the...
I've got one more.
We have one more?
Yeah, there's one more.
Okay, and this is the
Late fees.
resuming late fees on commercial accounts? Yep. Okay, the next item would be regarding late fees to commercial accounts. We have two options, as Ed showed earlier in his presentation. Option 1 would be to resume late fees and deposits on commercial accounts effective September 8th, 2020. And option 2, waiving all late penalties and deposits on commercial accounts for an additional 60 days.
I make a motion, we accept option 1.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Dan, to adapt option 1, which is resume late fees and deposits on commercial accounts effective September 8th, 2020. Discussion or questions on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you for wading through that, everyone.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up that item.
Just a little technicality. Jeff, do you need help hooking up your computer to the projector, or? 'cause I'm-
No, I was not going to use it for this next
Okay,
item,
good,
but I
so I'm
wanted
connected
to
remotely.
demask up here.
Okay, looks like the next item is an action item, engineering services reimbursement agreement for the Ulen projects. Jeff Jacob?
Yeah, thank you. Just some background. As many of you know, we have been working with the town of Ulen for quite some time on a project that started, stopped, and was restarted, moving or replacing the electrical system within the community. There has been a request for cosmetic reasons to install the electric system within the town of Ulen from its current location with below-ground transformers that are no longer consistent with our electric department standards, to move that into the rear yards of the residences. Part of that is a historic nature request that the town has all below-ground utilities. We're unable to accommodate that request and have all below-ground utilities because the below-ground transformers are no longer safe, no longer serviceable, and more expensive and difficult to maintain from a parts standpoint. So we have worked for many months in a design. Jeff Greeno has been pretty integral in coming up with how this would potentially lay out. The rear yard system, as we're referring to it, is somewhat complex. As those of you, or all of you know Ulen, the rear yards of the homes are filled with lots of things, including trees and gardens and patios and pools, and we need to route through there. And I think we have a rough design with the help of John Leitner, a rough design laid out. What we're in the process of doing is entering into an agreement or memorandum of understanding with the town of Ulen, wherein they would pay the difference in the cost from installing in the front yards, which we were planning on doing, to installing in the rear yards, much like a developer would do if they were paying to move a system, water, wastewater, or electric. So we have been unable to, despite Ed's and my best efforts, we've been unable to finalize that agreement with the town of Ulen. There are a number of moving parts, and it is not your standard one-off agreement, I will concede. Right now, the sticking point is seemingly an understanding of what the costs would be for the to-be-constructed rear yard system. So, what is before you is an agreement that I have drafted and presented to the town of Ulen in anticipation of this board's consideration, dividing the engineering costs between the utility board and Ulen to allow for the design of the engineering design of the rear yard system. There is an agreement that Jeff Greeno will address if needed with Alpha Engineering for that cost. What else can I say? This is somewhat of a unique and complicated circumstance that has, as many of you know, has some twists and turns with the town of Ulen in trying to put together to upgrade their electric system. We have tried our best to get out in front of this and continuing to try to start this process in the 2020 construction season. It remains unknown whether that will happen. Since things have kind of slowed in 2020 with the town, Ed, Jeff, and I have tried to be extremely responsive to every request, every edit, every change like this. And in fact, we tried to get this in front of you at the last meeting, and we just weren't advised that Ulen had accepted it. So we're looking for direction on this. We believe this is a next viable step towards coming up with a final solution for this problem. But I would leave this in your hands as to what next steps, if this is an agreement that you want to enter into.
So Jeff, question, this first action item on the engineering service reimbursement, is this item basically agreeing or saying that the utilities agrees to split the engineering costs of this project with the town of Ulen?
I would say it in opposite, but yes, that Ulen will share in that cost with us.
Okay, whatever that cost may, we don't know that cost yet?
Not to exceed $20,000.
Not to exceed $20,000.
And I believe an initial stab at that in item 7 was $7,500, is that correct?
Jeff, let me address that.
That may be updated, yes.
We need an update on that because we noticed that it doesn't include some of the scope. It'll be, I would say it's going to be for sure less than 20,000, but if we get to item 7, we were going to go with the engagement letter and table the Ulen quote until it's updated. It might be within my signing limit even, but it'll be less than 20,000.
Okay.
So the total engineering is estimated to be up to $20,000, which would be split by the town and utilities.
Correct.
Maximum of $10,000 each.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So it sounds like that'd be the first action item here. If someone wants to make a motion to agree to split those.
I make a motion, we approve the engineering reimbursement agreement for $20,000 and $10,000 for Ulen, $10,000 for the utilities. Up to.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Dan to approve the engineering services reimbursement agreement on the Ulen project. Any other discussion or questions on that portion?
Yeah, I'm going to vote yes, and I'd like to explain why, because I understand that the existing underground transformer is very hazardous for our employees to service. So this is, in my mind, an important safety measure that I hope we can get completed quickly.
Yeah, Aaron makes a good point there. Their system is what, 70 to 100 years old, their underground system, and it presents many dangers. So this is one first step in in getting that resolved. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Jeff. And then Ed, the next item is the Alpha Engineering Agreement on the Ulen project. Did you say that might be a table item, or?
I'm going to let Jeff Greeno, I kind of stole his thunder, talk about it. This is Alpha Engineering. This is our first time working with this engineering firm, so we do have an engagement letter with them. They're a good firm. They do this type of work, and we're going to try them out on these projects. But I did want to do a shout out to staff on Ulen, finally getting this move forward. I found stuff in the files with the Ulen project going back 10 years where we'd asked them to let us work with us on these transformers. So to finally have this memorandum of understanding written down with Ulen, this is, they've already signed their end of it. This is major.
It's a good step.
This is a good step. And shout out to Jeff Jacob, Jeff Greeno, and staff getting this thing going. So with no further ado, let me turn it over to Jeff Greeno.
I would recommend for now that we do table the Ulen.
And let me step in and address that very quickly. And here's, and apologize for not being on the same page here. I would suggest that you approve this amount, and maybe an easier way to do this, consistent with my comments. We do not want to be the impediment with this project with Ulen. And just as some commentary, they don't seem to see the urgency that we do. And we have at every turn of the screw explained to them that they have a fragile system. And we're not talking about hours of outage at this point. In fact, Jeff has put together some emergency service plans that involve utility poles and yards. So if they're concerned about green boxes in the front of their homes, I know temporarily that the residents there will not like utility poles to restore temporary service over the course of days. So my recommendation to the board is to approve this agreement up to $20,000, consistent with the reimbursement agreement that you just approved, knowing that it will likely not be that amount, and allow staff the flexibility to work in the details of that number, but they have up to 20 to play with once the scope is ironed out with Alpha.
Yeah, I support that. Thanks, Jeff. This information just came out right before the board meeting. I didn't have a chance to get with you, so great idea.
I apologize for that too.
Okay, so Jeff, do you want to add anything? It looks, you want to just talk about the agreement here briefly?
I'd like to go on to the Sunbrook edition.
Well, and I have a question too that you can answer
Yes,
in
sir.
response to Neil. Why do we feel that the $4,500 that we thought was going to be sufficient, why do we feel that is no longer sufficient?
It doesn't cover the engineering design. It talks about easements, and they already got the easements. What we asked for on easements was mainly to make sure the easements we have were sufficient to do the work in their expertise, but it didn't include all of the scope. So we just have to get it redone.
Thank you.
But I guess the motion we're asking for is to approve Alpha Engineering to do the work for Ulen up to $20,000,
Okay.
like Jeff suggested.
Okay, so the 4,500 is the only thing that would change in this motion, up to,
Yeah.
not to exceed 20,000?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's the change in this then, is the quote for Alpha Engineering for the Ulen easement project. The amount will be not to exceed 20,000, subject to the engineering services reimbursement agreement with the town of Ulen. Does that sound right, Jeff?
Modifying, and allowing staff to modify the dollar amount and scope.
Okay. All right, since I can't make the motion officially.
So moved.
We have a second there?
A second.
Motion made by Dan and seconded by Bill to approve the Alpha Engineering Agreement on the Ulen project for a not to exceed amount of $20,000 for engineering services reimbursement agreement with the town of Ulen, so with staff, allowing staff to approve that amount. Any other discussion or questions?
This $20,000 amount is within the 2020 budget for the Ulen upgrade capital addition, so.
It is. You're confirming that, Aaron?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if you're asking or telling.
Well,
Okay, so Aaron confirmed that that is in the budget for the Ulen project. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries. Thanks for walking us through that, Jeff and Jeff. I think Jeff Greeno is going to stay right where he's at for the next item, and this is the Alpha Engineering Agreement with Sunbrook. Is that right?
That is correct. I know it's an odd request, but the electric department would like to use Alpha Engineering to do our electrical design for the Sunbrook addition. The Sunbrook addition is located on Witt Road, just south of 250 North. And when this addition is completed, there's going to be 155 new houses that Lebanon Utilities will serve. So it's quite a large addition. Their scope of work that Alpha will be doing for us will include staking, wire sizing, transformer placements, and where to put secondary boxes. The funds for this we're going to use out of line item 1 of the capital additions. We chose Alpha Engineering because they're a more well-rounded engineering company that suits our needs on these particular additions that come up. So I would like to ask the board to approve the quote from Alpha Engineering with a not-to-exceed amount of $7,500 to do all of the electrical design for Phase 2. Now, this addition will have there'll be more phases. This is just for Phase 2 of this.
so is that 155 homes for all phases or just phase 2?
That's for all phases. Sunbrook will be done in different phases, starting from Witt Road, going towards the railroad.
So as the phases come up, are we going to have to engineer electrically, have an electrical engineering consultant for all the phases?
Yes.
And this first phase is not to exceed 7,500, that's right?
This is Phase 2.
Or phase
We've
2,
already
okay.
done Phase 1. This particular addition is kind of unique. It has both Boone County RMC customers in it and us. So most of Phase 1 was Boone County RMC. We only, on Phase 1, acquired like 16 customers, I believe would be total.
Okay,
So this one, Phase 2 actually will have a total of 27 houses. But the scope of work that they're doing is they're planning out how we're going to create a loop system for this addition so we can maintain good service for all the future customers in there and the existing ones.
You anticipate the engineering cost to be the same for the other phases?
I would say it's going to vary on how big Phase 3 is going to be. It all varies on how much each phase, how many more houses.
Yeah, it depends on the complexity of the development. Some of them we can do in-house, some of them we have to outsource, and it's just going to depend. This one's complex.
Is this one complex enough to justify that?
Yes, from talking to Jeff, it sounds, with Boone RMC being so close, just the placement of the pole.
Yeah, like I said, it's a unique addition. I mean, we're going to have 155 customers in it.
Let's see, Ed, you use the phrase in-house. What does that mean?
We have an assistant engineer who can do staking when it comes down to just one or two poles, like like it's a traffic accident and we have to put up another pole and we have to design it, or you just have to add a pole on a street. We can do some things ourselves, and there's some things where the complexity is so much that it's easy to make a mistake and put yourself at risk, and you want to have an engineering consultant's stamp on it.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Any other questions for Jeff? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I would move that we approve hang on here, I'm sorry, engineering agreement for the Sunbrook project with Alpha Engineering not to exceed $7,500.
I second.
Motion made by Dan, seconded by Bill to approve the quote from Alpha Engineering for the Sunbrook Section 2 plan for an amount not to exceed $7,500. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Looks like next item is approval of the claims. Everyone had a chance to review the claims? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I move to approve the claims dated August 19, 2020 in the amount of $2,335,460.83.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Bill to approve the claims. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is other business that may come before the board. Anybody have anything tonight for the board? Anybody from the public have anything for the board or any comments? All right, looks like our next meeting is scheduled for September 9th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Anybody have anything else before we adjourn?
I would just like to, earlier we discussed a disconnect policy. In this time of pandemic, I feel like we made some very important decisions and that our staff gave us some really good direction in helping us make this decision. And I just want to thank the staff for their hard work.
Yep, thanks, Aaron. They're doing a good job, and it is definitely a difficult time for everybody, so thanks for bringing that up. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Motion by Bill, seconded by Aaron to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.